In a world ruled by fear, rules are clear. Betrayal means death. But what happens when loyalty is tested by desperation? One young driver, caught in the middle of a ruthless mafia empire, asks a simple question, one that will challenge a legendary mafia boss, save lives, and change the rules of the game forever. This is the story of courage, mercy, and the power of listening when everyone else stays silent. The basement smelled like concrete and fear. I sat in a metal chair under a single bulb that buzzed like a dying insect, my hands zip-tied behind my back so tight the plastic cut into my wrists. 3 men in expensive suits stood around me like vultures waiting for permission to feed. I'd seen this scene in movies. The person in my position never walked out. My name is Adrian Cross. 26 years old, 2 jobs, negative $300 in my bank account, and a mother whose medical bills ate through my paycheck faster than I could earn it. I drove for a rideshare company at night and sorted packages at a warehouse during the day. I'd been doing this for 3 years, ever since Mom's diagnosis. Last Tuesday I picked up a fare. Wrong address, wrong time, wrong life. The man who got into my car was bleeding. He shoved a package into the seat cushion, whispered an address I'd never heard of, and passed out before we reached the second stoplight. I drove him to the hospital instead. Saved his life, the doctors said. I left before anyone asked my name. That was 6 days ago. 4 hours ago, 2 men in black suits appeared at my apartment. They didn't break down the door. They knocked. Polite. Professional. Terrifying. They said Mr. Castellano wanted to see me. They said I should come quietly. They said my mother was safe. Came quietly. Now I was here, in this basement that probably doubled as a tomb, waiting for a man whose name made grown adults check over their shoulders before whispering it. Dominic Castellano. The king of the city's underworld. The man who decided who lived and who disappeared. The door at the top of the stairs opened. Footsteps descended, slow and deliberate. Counted 12 steps. My heart hammered against my ribs like it wanted to escape without me. He appeared. Tall, maybe 6'3", with dark hair graying at the temples and eyes like winter storms. 40-something, built like someone who still did his own fighting. He wore a black suit that probably cost more than my car. Behind him, 2 more men positioned themselves at the stairs. Dominic Castellano looked at me the way a scientist looks at an interesting specimen. Not angry. Not curious. Just observing. Calculating. Adrian Cross, he said. His voice was quiet, which somehow made it worse. You picked up one of my men last week. I didn't know who he was, I said. My voice cracked. He was bleeding. I took him to the hospital. You also found a package. My stomach dropped through the floor. Package. I'd forgotten about the package until 3 days later when I detailed my car and found it wedged deep under the passenger seat. A small brown box, maybe 6 inches square, wrapped in plastic and tape. Heavy for its size. I didn't open it. I knew better than to open things that came from bleeding men who whispered addresses before passing out. I'd hidden it in my closet behind my old college textbooks. Figured I'd wait a few weeks, make sure nobody was looking for it, then drop it at a police station with an anonymous note. That was my plan. A stupid plan, apparently. I still have it, I said quickly. I didn't open it. I didn't tell anyone. It's in my apartment, in my closet, behind the books on the 3rd shelf. I can take you there right now. One of the men behind me laughed. Cold, ugly sound. Adrian. Dominic moved closer. Do you know what's in that package? No, sir. Do you know what happens to people who steal from me? I didn't steal it. I forgot about it. I swear I was going to. Enough. He held up one hand. The room went silent. Marco, bring the bolt cutters. The man to my right pulled something from a bag I hadn't noticed before. Metal. Heavy. The kind of tool you used on chain link fences or padlocks. Or fingers. My breath came in short gasps. Please, I'm telling the truth. I didn't know. I just drove him to the hospital. I didn't even charge him for the ride. I just wanted to help. People who help in my business usually have other motives. Dominic circled behind me. I couldn't see him anymore. My neck ached from trying to twist around. You know what was in that package? No, sir. $2 million in uncut diamonds. Payment for a shipment. My payment. $2 million. The number hit me like a fist. $2 million had been sitting in my closet for 6 days. Could have run. Could have sold them. Could have paid off Mom's medical bills and disappeared to Mexico or Canada or anywhere that wasn't a basement with bolt cutters. I didn't know, I whispered. I promise I didn't know. Marco. Dominic's voice came from somewhere behind me. Start with the left hand. Pinky finger first. Wait. The word exploded out of me. Wait, please, just listen. I don't listen to thieves. I'm not a thief. My voice broke into something desperate and raw. I'm not. I saved your guy's life. The hospital said he would have bled out in 20 minutes. I drove past 3 police stations to get him there. If I wanted to steal from you, I would have taken the diamonds and run, but I didn't. I didn't even know what they were. Marco grabbed my left hand. I felt the cold metal of the bolt cutters against my pinky finger. Closed my eyes. My mother's face filled my mind. Who would take care of her? Who would pay her bills? Who would sit with her during chemotherapy? Please, I said. Please just let me finish talking. Silence. The kind of silence that felt heavier than sound. I waited for pain. Waited for the crack of bone and the wet snap of flesh. Instead, I heard Dominic's voice. Stop. The pressure on my finger disappeared. Opened my eyes. Marco stood frozen, bolt cutters still in hand, looking at Dominic with confusion. Boss. Let him talk. Dominic moved back around to face me. His expression hadn't changed. Still cold. Still calculating. But he was looking at me differently now. Like he'd noticed something he'd missed before. Marco didn't move. Boss, he's just stalling. They all say the same. I said let him talk. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Marco stepped back immediately, bolt cutters lowering. Dominic pulled up a second chair and sat down 3 feet in front of me. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, hands clasped. Waiting. My mind raced. This was my chance. Maybe my only chance. But what could I say that would convince a man like this? What words would make him believe me? I thought about my mother. About the last conversation we'd had before the men came to take me. She'd been sitting in her recliner, the one the hospice company brought last month, wrapped in the quilt my grandmother made before she died. She looked so small. Cancer did that. Made people shrink into shadows of themselves. When I was 9, I started, my voice shaking. My father left. Walked out one morning and never came back. No note, no explanation, nothing. Mom tried to explain it to me, but I wouldn't listen. I was angry. I screamed at her, told her it was her fault, and also told her I hated her. I said terrible things. Dominic said nothing. His face showed nothing. She let me finish. I met his eyes. She sat on my bed and let me scream at her for 20 minutes. Didn't interrupt. Didn't defend herself. Just listened. When I finally ran out of words, when I was crying so hard I couldn't breathe, she hugged me. She said, I'm glad you told me how you feel. I'm glad you trust me enough to be angry at me. My throat tightened. She said everyone deserves to finish their sentence. Even when they're wrong. Even when they're angry. Because sometimes people aren't finished talking when you think they are. Sometimes they have one more thing to say. And that one thing changes everything. The room stayed quiet. Somewhere above us, footsteps crossed the floor. Water dripped from a pipe in the corner. Marco shifted his weight, leather shoes creaking against concrete. I saved your guy because that's what my mom taught me, I continued. You see someone bleeding, you help them. You don't ask who they are first. You don't check if they deserve it. You just help. And when I found those diamonds, I didn't know what to do. I was scared. I knew they had to belong to someone dangerous. But I didn't run because running makes you look guilty, and I'm not guilty. Pause. Followed. I'm just a driver who picked up the wrong fare. And I'm asking you to let me finish explaining before you decide what I deserve. Dominic stared at me for what felt like an hour. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The buzzing bulb above my head suddenly seemed deafening. Then he stood up, walked to the corner of the basement where shadows pooled thick and dark. Stood there with his back to me, hands in his pockets, head slightly bowed. Marco looked at the other men. They looked back. Silent questions passed between them. This wasn't normal. Whatever this was, it didn't fit the script they knew. How old were you? Dominic said quietly, still facing the corner. When your mother got sick? The question caught me off guard. 23. You were in college? Yes, sir. Engineering. 1 semester left. You dropped out. It wasn't a question. He already knew. I had to. Someone needed to work. Someone needed to be there for treatments. Your father. Still gone. He turned around. For the first time since entering the basement, his expression cracked. Just slightly. Just enough that I saw something underneath the cold mask. Something that looked almost like pain. I had a younger brother, he said. Angelo. 15 years younger than me. Our mother died when he was born. Complications. Our father blamed him. Never said it out loud, but Angelo knew. Kids always know. He listened. What else could I do? When Angelo was 16, he got in trouble at school. Fighting. Drugs. The principal called me in for a meeting. I was busy. I had a shipment coming in, a territory dispute with the Italians on the north side. 3 of my guys in the hospital. I walked into that meeting planning to stay 5 minutes. Just long enough to sign whatever needed to be signed and leave. Dominic moved closer. His voice got quieter. Angelo tried to explain. Tried to tell me what was really happening. That he wasn't selling drugs. He was trying to stop his girlfriend from overdosing. That he wasn't starting fights. He was defending another kid who couldn't defend himself. I didn't listen. Cut him off. Told him I didn't have time for excuses. I said if he was going to act like trash, he could live like trash. I walked out. The pain in his voice was unmistakable now. 2 weeks later he overdosed. Didn't even like drugs, the autopsy said. Just wanted to understand what his girlfriend was going through. Wanted to help her. He died trying to be good, and I called him trash without letting him finish his sentence. The basement felt smaller suddenly. Colder. I've spent 10 years wondering what he was going to say next, Dominic continued. What the rest of his sentence was. Maybe nothing important. Maybe just more excuses. But maybe not. Maybe that one last thing he wanted to tell me would have changed everything. I'll never know. Because I didn't let him finish. He looked at me with eyes that had seen too much and felt too little until now. So when you asked me to let you finish talking, I heard my brother's voice. And I decided not to make the same mistake twice. Marco broke the silence. Boss, what do you want us to do with him? Dominic was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded to the men. Cut the zip ties. Give him water. Sir. You heard me. Marco hesitated, then pulled a knife from his belt and sliced through the plastic binding my wrists. Blood rushed back into my hands. The pain was incredible. I bit down hard to keep from crying out. One of the other men brought a bottle of water. I drank half of it in 3 gulps. Dominic sat back down across from me. The package is still in your closet. Yes, sir. Untouched. I didn't even open the plastic. He studied my face. Looking for lies. Looking for cracks in my story. You understand you could have run. Could have taken those diamonds and disappeared. Started a new life somewhere I'd never find you. I thought about it, I admitted. For about 5 seconds. Then I remembered my mom. She needs me. I can't run. Your mother. He said it like he was testing the weight of the words. The one who taught you everyone deserves to finish their sentence. Yes, sir. She's dying. It wasn't a question. He already knew that too. Pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. 6 months, maybe less. Dominic nodded slowly. Stood up. Walked to the stairs. paused with one foot on the bottom step. You're not a thief, Adrian. You're a fool. But you're an honest fool, and those are rare. What happens now? My voice barely made it past my throat. He didn't turn around. Now you go home. You bring me the package tomorrow morning. Dress, I'll text you. You come alone. You hand it over. We're done. That's it. That's it. He started up the stairs. Marco, drive him home. Make sure nobody follows. Boss, Marco called after him. You really believe him? Dominic stopped at the top of the stairs. Turned around. Looked down at me with those winter storm eyes. My brother asked me to listen once. I didn't. This kid asked me to listen. I did. Whether I believe him or not doesn't matter anymore. I gave him a chance to finish talking. Now I have to live with whatever comes next. That's the price of listening. He disappeared through the door. Marco looked at me. Shook his head. You're either the luckiest man alive or the dumbest. I haven't decided which. Can I ask you something? Said. What? Has he ever done this before? Let someone finish talking. Marco's expression went dark. In 10 years. Never. You're the first. He gestured toward the stairs. Let's go. And Adrian. Don't make him regret this. He doesn't handle regret well. I stood on shaking legs and followed Marco up the stairs. Behind me, the empty basement chair sat under the buzzing bulb. My blood still marked the armrests. 20 minutes ago I thought I was going to die there. Now I was walking out. Because I'd asked a man to let me finish my sentence. And somehow, impossibly, he'd said yes. Marco drove a black SUV that smelled like leather and gun oil. I sat in the back seat, watching the city slide past the tinted windows. My apartment was in the South District, a neighborhood where rent was cheap because nobody wanted to live there. Streets with more potholes than pavement. Buildings with windows covered in bars. The kind of place where you heard gunshots twice a week and stopped calling the police after the first month. We didn't go to my apartment. Where are we going? Asked. Somewhere safe. Marco kept his eyes on the road. 2 more SUVs followed behind us. I hadn't noticed them until now. I thought I was going home. You are. Just not the home you're thinking of. My stomach tightened. You said I could go. Dominic said. Dominic said you weren't a thief. He didn't say you were safe. Marco glanced at me in the rearview mirror. You think you're the only one who knows about those diamonds. You think the guy you drove to the hospital kept his mouth shut about losing $2 million. He was unconscious. He woke up. And when he woke up, people started asking questions. Who took him to the hospital? Who drove the car? Who had access to what he was carrying? Marco turned down a street I'd never seen before. Skill. Trees lining the sidewalk. Houses with actual yards. Right now, 5 different crews are looking for you. The Italians think you stole from them. The Russians think you're working with us. The dirty cops think you witnessed something you shouldn't have. Everyone wants to find you first. But I didn't do anything. Doesn't matter. You're a loose end. And loose ends get cut off. We pulled through a gate that opened automatically. A mansion rose ahead of us. Not movie mansion big, but bigger than anything I'd ever been inside. White stone, black shutters, a fountain in the circular driveway. This wasn't a safe house. This was someone's actual home. Where are we? Asked. Dominic's estate. Marco parked near the front door. You're staying here until this gets sorted out. I can't stay here. My mom. Your mom is already here. The words hit me like a fist. What? Marco got out and opened my door. We picked her up 2 hours ago. Medical transport. Brought her doctor, her medications, and set up a room on the first floor so she doesn't have to use stairs. She thinks she won the lottery or something. Some kind of hospice charity program. I stumbled out of the SUV. You can't just take someone's dying mother without asking. We didn't take her. We relocated her. There's a difference. He walked toward the front entrance. Followed my mind spinning. Like I said, everyone's looking for you. That means everyone's watching your apartment. Your mom stays there, she becomes a target. She comes here, she's protected. Simple math. She'll ask questions. Let her ask. Tell her you won a contest. Tell her your boss felt generous. Tell her whatever you want. Just keep her inside the gates. Marco opened the door and stepped into a foyer bigger than my entire apartment. Marble floors. A chandelier that probably cost more than my car. Paintings on the walls that looked old and expensive. A woman in scrubs appeared from a hallway to the right. Mr. Marco, she's resting comfortably. Vitals are stable. She ate dinner and took her medications. No complications. Good. Where's her room? Follow me. My mother was asleep in a hospital bed that had been set up in a room that looked like it belonged in a five-star hotel. Soft carpet, expensive furniture, windows overlooking a garden. Medical equipment beeped quietly beside her. And 4 drip hung from a pole. But she looked peaceful. More peaceful than I'd seen her look in months. We're monitoring her around the clock, the nurse whispered. Dr. Patterson will be here in the morning to check on her. Anything she needs, just press the call button. I couldn't speak. Couldn't process what I was seeing. Your room's next door, Marco said. You need anything, there's staff. The kitchen's always stocked. Don't leave the property. Don't call anyone. Don't use your phone for anything except the number Dominic gave you. Understood. I nodded slowly. Good. He started to leave, then paused. Adrian, you got lucky tonight. Dominic almost never gives second chances. Don't waste this one. He left me standing there, staring at my mother, trying to understand how my life had turned into this. 12 hours ago, I was sorting packages in a warehouse. Now I was in a mansion, my mother was being cared for by private nurses, and I was somehow alive despite being zip-tied in a basement with bolt cutters aimed at my fingers. I sat down in the chair beside Mom's bed. Took her hand gently so I wouldn't wake her. Her skin felt paper-thin. Her breathing was shallow but steady. The cancer was winning. We both knew it. The doctors said 6 months. I thought they were being optimistic. I don't know what's happening, Mom, I whispered. I don't know if I did the right thing. I don't know if we're safe. But you're here and you're comfortable, and that's something. That's better than the apartment. That's better than the hospice place they wanted to send you to. She stirred slightly but didn't wake. I stayed there for an hour, holding her hand, watching her chest rise and fall, thinking about the story I'd told Dominic. About the day I screamed at her. About how she let me finish talking. She taught me that. Taught me to give people space to say what they needed to say. Even when it hurts. Even when you didn't want to hear it. She said silence was a gift you gave to people you loved. The gift of being fully heard. I'd given that gift to Dominic tonight without meaning to. I'd reminded him of the gift he didn't give his brother. And somehow, impossibly, it had saved my life. A soft knock at the door made me jump. A young woman stood there, maybe 20, with dark hair and tired eyes. She wore jeans and a sweater. Not staff. Not medical. She looked at me with recognition I didn't understand. You're Adrian, she said. Yeah. Who are you? I'm Nina. She stepped into the room. Dominic's daughter. Nina moved into the room with the careful quiet of someone who'd spent a lot of time around sick people. She looked at my mother, then at me, then back to my mother. She looks peaceful. The nurses said she ate dinner. That's good. She hasn't had much appetite lately. Cancer. Pancreatic. Stage 4. Nina nodded. No pity in her expression. Just understanding. My mother died of breast cancer when I was 12. I remember those last months. The way time felt heavy. I'm sorry, I said automatically. Don't be. It was 8 years ago. I've made peace with it. She pulled up another chair and sat down. I wanted to meet you. My father doesn't usually bring people here. Especially not people who've been in his basement an hour earlier. Trust me, I'm as confused as you are. You asked him to let you finish talking. Word traveled fast in this house. I did. No one does that. No one interrupts my father, and no one asks him for time to explain. She studied me with dark eyes that reminded me of Dominic's. Calculating. Careful. You didn't know that, though. You were too scared to know the rules. I just wanted him to understand I wasn't trying to steal from him. Were you? No. I met her gaze. I'm not a thief. I'm just someone who made a mistake. Nina was quiet for a moment. Then she said, when I was 14, I got expelled from school. Fighting. I broke another girl's nose. My father was called in for a meeting. The principal wanted to file charges. My father asked if I started the fight. I listened. I said yes, because technically I threw the first punch. The principal said that was all he needed to know. Case closed. Spelled. Charges filed. My father stood up to leave. I tried to explain why I hit her, but he told me explanations were excuses. He said I needed to learn there were consequences for violence. What really happened? Yes. The girl I hit had been bullying my best friend for months. Spreading rumors she was gay. Posting pictures online. Writing slurs on her locker. My friend tried to kill herself the week before. I visited her in the hospital on Thursday. On Friday, the girl was laughing about it in the cafeteria. So I broke her nose. Nina's voice stayed level. Clinical. Like she was describing someone else's story. My father didn't let me explain that part. Didn't ask why. Just heard, I started the fight. And decided that was enough. I spent 6 months in juvenile detention. My best friend recovered, graduated early, and moved across the country. We don't talk anymore. And my father still doesn't know the real story. Why didn't you tell him later? I tried. He said it didn't matter. Actions have consequences regardless of intentions. She looked at my mother again. But tonight he let you finish your sentence. He gave you what he didn't give Angelo. What he didn't give me. I wanted to meet the person who managed to do that. I didn't manage anything, I said. I just got lucky. Luck has nothing to do with it. Nina stood up. My father is a lot of things. Dangerous. Calculating. Ruthless when he needs to be. But he's not random. If he let you talk, it's because something about you reminded him of something he lost. And if he brought you here, brought your mother here, it means he's decided you matter. I don't want to matter to a man like him. She smiled sadly. Too late for that. You already do. I woke up in a bed softer than any I'd ever slept in. Morning light poured through windows I'd forgotten to close. For 5 seconds I thought I'd dreamed everything. The basement, the bolt cutters, the mansion. Then I sat up and saw my phone on the nightstand with a text message from an unknown number. Liam. Dress attached. Come alone. Bring the package. The address was downtown. A building I recognized. The kind of building where important business happened behind doors normal people never saw. I checked the time. 30. I had 90 minutes. My mother was awake when I knocked on her door. She looked better than she had in weeks. The nurse said she'd slept through the night without waking once. Adrian, honey, where are we? This place is beautiful. It's a hospice program, I lied. They select a few patients each year for specialized care. You got chosen. Really? Her eyes lit up with something I hadn't seen in months. Oh. They just called and picked me. Something like that. You didn't have to pay for this. No, Mum. It's completely free. She reached for my hand. This is a miracle. I thought I'd die in that apartment. Adrian, this is beautiful. Have a garden view. They brought me real food last night, not hospital food. And the nurse said there's a library down the hall. Guilt twisted in my stomach. This wasn't a miracle. This was a criminal keeping me close until he decided whether to trust me. But Mom looked so happy. So peaceful. For the first time in a year, she wasn't in pain. I have to go out for a few hours, I said. Run some errands. But I'll be back this afternoon. Be safe, honey. Always. I kissed her forehead and left before she could ask more questions. Marco was waiting in the foyer. Ready. You're coming with me. Dominic's orders. You go alone but I follow. Make sure nobody else does. He tossed me a set of keys. You're driving your own car. We had it brought here last night. The package is already in the trunk. You went to my apartment. While you were sleeping. Got the package, got some of your clothes, got your work schedule so we could call in sick for you. You're covered for the next 2 weeks. I stared at him. You thought of everything. That's my job. He opened the door. Don't be late. Dominic hates waiting. The building downtown was called Meridian Towers. 40 stories of glass and steel. The directory in the lobby listed law firms, investment companies, consulting groups. Nothing that screamed criminal empire. Everything that whispered it. I took the elevator to the 38th floor. The doors opened to a waiting area with leather furniture and abstract art. A woman at a desk looked up. Adrian Cross. Yes. Mr. Castellano is expecting you. She pressed a button. A door to my right buzzed open. Through here. I walked down a hallway lined with more abstract art. Doors on both sides all closed. At the end of the hall, one door stood open. I stepped through. The office was massive. Windows overlooking the entire city. A desk that probably weighed more than my car. Bookshelves filled with leather-bound volumes. And Dominic, standing by the windows with his hands in his pockets, watching the world below. Did you bring it? He asked without turning around. I set the package on his desk. Still wrapped. Still sealed. Exactly as I'd found it. Dominic walked over and picked it up. Felt the weight. Examined the tape. Then he set it back down without opening it. You could have run. You said that yesterday. I'm saying it again. You had 12 hours. You knew where you were. You knew we were watching your mother. You could have disappeared. Where would I go? He finally looked at me. Anywhere. Mexico. Canada. South America. 2 million in diamonds buys a lot of distance. And my mother dies alone in a hospital bed wondering where I went. She's dying anyway. The words hit like a slap. I felt anger flash hot in my chest. Yeah, yes. Which means every day I have left with her matters. I'm not going to spend her last months on the run because I made a stupid decision. I'm not going to let her die thinking I abandoned her. Dominic studied me for a long moment. Then he did something I didn't expect. He smiled. Barely there. But real. You're more like my brother than I thought. How? He would have said the same thing. Family first. Even when it costs you everything. He walked back to the windows. Angelo was supposed to take over for me someday. He didn't want to. He hated everything about this life. But he understood family came first. Loyalty. Sacrifice. The things that matter when everything else burns. I didn't know what to say. You're going to stay at my estate, Dominic continued. Your mother will receive the best care available until she passes. You'll be safe. Federal protected. In exchange, you're going to work for me. Doing what? Listening. He turned around. That's what you're good at. Paying attention. Finishing sentences. I need someone who can do that. Someone who isn't afraid to hear the whole story before making decisions. I don't understand. You will. He picked up the package and finally unwrapped it. Inside was a velvet bag. He poured the contents onto his desk. Diamonds scattered across the dark wood like frozen stars. Each one worth more than I'd make in 10 years. People lie to me constantly. Associates, rivals, business partners. They tell me what they think I want to hear. They give me half-truths and strategic omissions. I'm tired of it. He scooped the diamonds back into the bag. You're going to sit in meetings. Listen to deals being made. Watch negotiations happen. And afterward, you're going to tell me what you heard that I didn't. You're going to tell me what people were afraid to finish saying. I'm not qualified for that. You're more qualified than anyone else I know. He locked the diamonds in his desk drawer. You're going to learn quickly that the most dangerous thing in this business isn't guns or money. It's silent. Things people don't say. The sentences that get cut off. The explanations that never happen. Those are the things that get people killed. And if I say no, then you walk out of here. Go back to your apartment. Take your mother with you. We're done. I'll even give you 24 hours before everyone else in this city finds out where you live. His expression hardened. But your mother dies in pain because you can't afford her medications. And you die 6 months later when someone decides you know too much. That's what it looks like. Thought about Mom. About the peace on her face this morning. About the garden view and the real food and the nurses who actually cared. I thought about the apartment with mold in the corners and heat that barely worked. I thought about dying scared and alone because I tried to do the right thing. Okay, I said. I'll do it. Dominic nodded. Good. You start Monday. Marco will brief you on protocol. Rules. How to stay invisible while paying attention. He walked to the door and opened it. And Adrian, thank you for not running. That shows more character than most men I know. I left his office with my head spinning. I just agreed to work for a criminal. To be his eyes and ears in a world I didn't understand. To learn the language of violence and money and power. But my mother was safe. And for now that was enough. The first week at Dominic's estate felt like living in a strange dream. Mom settled into her room with contentment I hadn't seen in years. The nurses loved her. The doctor adjusted her medications and her pain decreased noticeably. She spent afternoons in the garden reading books from the library. She smiled again. Laughed again. Became a version of herself I thought cancer had killed months ago. I spent my days learning. Marco taught me how to read a room. How to watch body language. How to listen to what people didn't say. Words are easy to control, he explained. But hands, eyes, posture. Those tell the truth. Nina appeared occasionally. She'd sit with me in the library or walk through the garden while I asked questions about her father. About this life. About what I'd gotten myself into. She answered with brutal honesty. My father isn't a good man, she said one afternoon. We were sitting by the fountain, watching koi swim in lazy circles. He's done things that would make you sick. He'll do more things. This world doesn't reward goodness. It rewards strength. Then why stay? Yes. You're smart. You could leave. Because he's still my father. And because someone needs to remind him he used to be human. She tossed a coin into the fountain. That's what you're doing whether you realize it or not. You're reminding him that listening matters. That giving people a chance to finish their sentence isn't a weakness. On Friday afternoon, I met the reason Nina stayed. I was in the library reading when I heard crying. Child's crying. I followed the sound to a sunroom overlooking the garden. A little girl sat in the corner, maybe 7 years old, with dark curls and eyes red from tears. She looked up when I entered, fear flashing across her face. I'm sorry, I said quickly. I didn't mean to scare you. I heard crying and wanted to make sure you were okay. She stared at me without speaking. I'm Adrian. Staying here for a while. What's your name? Nothing. Just those wide, frightened eyes. I sat down on the floor, keeping distance between us. You don't have to talk if you don't want to. I just wanted to check on you. Make sure you're not hurt. The girl watched me for a long moment. Then, quietly, she whispered, Isabella. That's a pretty name. Are you sad about something, Isabella? She nodded. Do you want to tell me about it? She shook her head. That's okay. You don't have to. I stayed sitting. Not moving closer. Not pushing. Just being there. Sometimes it helps to talk about sad things. But only if you want to. There's no rush. We sat in silence for several minutes. The clock on the wall ticked. Outside, birds called to each other. Finally, Isabella spoke again. They don't listen. Who doesn't listen? The teachers. The doctors. Everyone. Her voice was so quiet I barely heard it. They ask questions and then they don't listen to the answers. What do you mean? They ask if I'm okay. Say no. They say I'm fine anyway. Tears rolled down her cheeks. They ask if I'm scared. Say yes. They say there's nothing to be scared of. But there is. I'm scared all the time. My chest tightened. What are you scared of? That everyone's going to leave. That I'll be alone again. That nobody will stay. She pulled her knees to her chest. My mom left. She said she'd come back, but she didn't. Everyone says she's coming back, but I think they're lying. I think she's never coming back and nobody wants to tell me. I stayed with Isabella for an hour. Didn't try to fix anything. Didn't tell her everything would be okay. Just listened. Let her talk about her fears, her nightmares, the things the adults around her dismissed as childish imagination. Eventually Nina found us. She stopped in the doorway, surprise crossing her face. Isabella, there you are. I've been looking for you. She's okay, I said quietly. We were just talking. Nina looked at Isabella, then at me. Something shifted in her expression. Understanding maybe. Or relief. Did you tell him? Isabella nodded. Everything. Another nod. Nina came into the room and sat beside the little girl. Put an arm around her shoulders. Isabella is my cousin. Her mother is my father's sister. She disappeared 4 months ago. We think she ran away with a man she met. We've been looking for her, but so far nothing. I'm sorry, I said to Isabella. Everyone's sorry, Isabella whispered. But sorry doesn't bring her back. You're right. It doesn't. I looked at Nina. Does anyone talk to her about this? Really talk. Not just pat her head and tell her it'll be fine. Nina's expression went dark. My father tries. But he's not good at it. He doesn't know how to talk to children about abandonment. His own father never talked to him about his mother dying. So he just doesn't talk about it at all. That's not fair to her. I know. Nina's voice carried frustration and sadness. But he thinks silence protects her. He thinks if we don't acknowledge how scared she is, maybe she'll stop being scared. I thought about my conversation with Dominic. About Angelo. About Nina's story of being expelled. About how this man had spent his whole life cutting conversations short because finishing them was too painful. Can I try something? Asked. Nina looked uncertain. Try what? Just talking to her. Really talking. No dismissing. No protection. Just honest answers to honest questions. My father won't. Then don't tell him. Let me spend time with Isabella. Let her ask questions. Let her finish her sentences. I looked at the little girl. Would that be okay with you, Isabella? She studied me with those serious, sad eyes. Then she nodded. For the next 3 weeks, I spent an hour each afternoon with Isabella. We sat in the sunroom or walked through the garden. She asked questions. I answered honestly. When she asked if her mother was coming back, I said I didn't know. But it had been a long time and that must hurt. When she asked if she'd done something wrong, I said absolutely not. That adults make their own choices and children are never responsible for them. Slowly, she began to relax. To smile occasionally. To talk about things other than fear. Nina watched from a distance. And one evening she pulled me aside. Thank you. I haven't seen her this calm in months. I'm just listening. That's more than most people do. Your father should talk to her. Really talk. She needs to hear from him that she matters. He doesn't know how. Then maybe, I said carefully, someone should teach him.